His family, a couple with their baby comes and the husband was like, hey, how you doing? You were here on vacation. And I said, no, I'm here. I help pro athletes and people get out of their own way. And he's like, that's awesome. And he just went straight to it. He said, so how would you stop me smoking? And I gave the honest answer. I said, I wouldn't. He's now confused. Well, what do you mean you wouldn't help me stop smoking? I said, well, because there's nothing wrong with smoking. Now he's really confused. I said, you're just smoking. Smoking is smoking. I'm not denying the physiological impacts. And then I said, let me ask you a question. Do you judge yourself for smoking? He's like, absolutely. I said, well, there's your problem. I said, you judged yourself way before you started smoking. He's like, yeah, I've been judging myself for years. I was like, yeah, smoking is the means by which you cope with the judgment. Smoking is just the symptom. Like any quote unquote substance, right? That's not the problem. When people tell me they do whatever, smoke too much weed, they do cocaine, they drink, whatever it is, pick your poison. For me, it always comes back to the dialogue you have with yourself. That you think there's something wrong with you, energetically, that creates suffering. That's a very discomforting energy to sit in. It's self-berating. And you found relief in nicotine. He's like, absolutely. And I said, now you reinforce that dialogue. You get to be right. The ego wants to be right. See, I'm a loser. I'm a bad person. I've let my parents down. Fill in the blank of ways that you get to be right about your own inadequacy. And then you use smoking as the way to sustain that. And I said, but when you realize there's nothing wrong with you other than the conversation you have about yourself, which is just founded in words, then there's nothing to fight. And I saw him like a few days later and he came running up to me like a little kid. He's like, I haven't even had a cigarette. I'm like, great, because you haven't been beating the shit out of yourself, so you don't need relief from your own internally created suffering.